All right, good evening. My name's Lisa Hallowell. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the Radnor Environmental Council, and I am standing in for Margie Reinhardt, who couldn't be here tonight. And as usual, our first agenda item is the review and approval of the minutes. I don't know if we have those printed, but we can pull them up. I don't know if people had a chance to review them, but does anyone have any comments or changes to the minutes from last week's meeting? And if not,
I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, so,
We're all in favor.
okay, perfect. Okay, so the minutes have been approved from last week. The next item on the agenda is announcements, and then we will turn to some discussion of our presentation on the plastic bag ordinance. So are there any announcements from anyone on the council?
Yeah, this is Ray. I've been working with Radnor High School to try to establish a student ambassador to join the Environmental Advisory Council. So be working on that over the next couple of months, try to get a form that's going to be approved and posted at the high school, and then we'll, try to get someone to start in the September timeframe.
That would be great. And do you need anything? Oh, and just everyone else, turn off your mics, because I don't know if the recording can pick up as well if you're not talking. Do we need any external approvals, or are we just working with, have you looked into that side of things?
Yeah, because it's an ambassador position, it was our understanding that we didn't need any type of approval. It's just, so it's not a, quote, official member of the EAC.
Right. Not a voting member.
Not a voting member, no.
Great. Well, thank you for doing that. That's great. Any other announcements?
Yes, just to say that I've been working with the Board of Health, and we put out a request that has been approved to provide a cooling center should we get into a really bad heat wave. This is particularly targeted towards the elderly. And Jake Abel, who's the commissioner for Ward 6, picked it up. Chris Quinn, who is the state rep for 168, which is where we are now, has also picked it up. And it's been approved. They're applying to the county for box fans, which the police would deliver. And we hope that each of the 7 commissioners will also keep it in mind. The hard part is we never know when a heat wave is going to start, how long it's going to go on, and when it's going to stop. But at least we're aware. I'm trying to make people aware that heat is the climate change issue that we're going to struggle with.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Any other announcements? Okay, if not, I don't know if we have. Okay, because we're up to, the next thing on the agenda is the plastic bag ordinance. We made some modifications that were discussed last month to the draft ordinance, and we are slated to present at the July 18th Board of Commissioners meeting. So Margie did graciously got this started for us. Oh, I don't think I have the clicker. Okay. So I was hoping we could review it, and if there's any changes we want to make to the presentation slides, we could do that here. And it's fairly short, we're not going to go line for line through the proposed ordinance with the Board of Commissioners in the interest of time, so this is really intended to be a high-level overview.
I can go through.
Okay, great, yeah, you can go ahead. The first slide was just really the title. So the first substantive slide here is titled "The Problem with Plastic Bags." And this pulled from the draft ordinance some of the reasons that we put in the draft ordinance for why we need this ordinance and why it's important to reduce plastic bags both locally, nationally, and globally. Obviously, again, we didn't put all of the reasons that are in the draft ordinance in here, but this is some of the highlights. And Margie did this, but I think it's a pretty good list. You can go to the next slide. This is related. This is the purpose of the ordinance is to reduce the use of single-use bags by commercial establishments within the township, as well as several other of the main purposes behind the ordinance that are geared toward protecting the local environment.
Could you go back to the previous slide for a sec? Could we maybe include a bullet noting percentage of bags that are not recycled? I mean, that's one of the big plastic bags are recyclable, nobody recycles them. So I'm wondering if maybe we should just kind of call that out, either percent discarded or percent, not recycled, something to that effect, because that kind of gets to the nature of the problem.
I would also propose adding a line about the impact on our single-stream recycling in Radnor Township, given that we actually incinerate most of our plastic and other recyclables. Those bags are not recyclable in single-stream anyway, but they do contaminate recycling and contribute to the fact that we incinerate our recycling, which I think is one of the biggest reasons why this is impactful for Radnor Township, because we should not be incinerating our recyclables.
Not to question that, Danelle, but I believe that at this point in time, our recycling is all going to landfills, which is even worse.
Yeah, same difference.
Yeah, the ordinance does have in it a reference to the fact that the trash currently gets incinerated, and also the problems that plastic bags cause, in the recycling system. So I think we could probably pretty easily pull that in here, and I agree that makes a lot of sense.
And while you're at it, the third bullet needs a period at the end of the sentence. Sticky stuff, but
No,
Be
that's
con-
important.
be
Want it
consistent.
to look good. Okay. All right, anything else, sorry, with the second slide, and then we'll go back to the third slide, which is purpose of the ordinance. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I can give you guys a minute to look at this. Let's see if there's anything else we want to add here.
Hi, Maura Mulroney over here. I'm wondering if purpose of the ordinance, I think is good. I like what you have here. Is there any place to put in reference to the timing of this based on the fact that there's no longer a state preemption for passing an ordinance like this? I think it's important for the public to know that this is the first opportunity that we've had to act. We're moving towards it, so it might just be a bullet there or on another slide.
That's a good point.
I think that would be great. Any other comments? I think that makes a lot of sense. And, that also kind of goes along with, I think I don't know if we have in here, I don't remember, but, yeah, the last slide is we will join our neighbors, so maybe it might also make sense, or instead make sense to kind of put there that a lot of townships are moving to do this now in light of the ban being lifted, so maybe that would be another good place to mention that. But great. Any other comments? And thank you for that.
We have the next slide.
All right, so this is just a very high-level summary of the ordinance. Prohibit single-use plastic bags, require commercial establishments to charge for distribution of recyclable paper bags, and exempt certain bags from the prohibition, which I think are really, obviously, it would take up a lot of the board's time, and presumably they will have gone through it already, but I think that covers it. I had asked Margie to add that final bullet, because I think it's important to include that there are exemptions worked in. But, if there's anything else, speak now. Otherwise, we can go to the next slide, which is implementation. This is just 2 bullets that basically say that starting 6 months after the effective date, the prohibition on distribution of single-use plastic carryout bags will be in effect, and that 30 days after the effective date, the signs will have to go up at commercial establishments regarding the upcoming ban. So again, I think this one's fine, but feel free to weigh in. Okay, next slide, and this is the last one. This just says we will join our neighbors. We think it's important to let the board and the community know that a lot of other local municipalities and cities are very recently passing or considering passing very similar bans. And actually, we can add to here, yes, Eric, why don't you?
Township passed theirs Monday night, so I think we should add it. We need to have people understand that there's an umbrella this way, and you're not going to go 2 blocks east and go to a township where you can get a single-use plastic bag, that we're all marching together. So if we could add Easttown Township, that would be good.
Yeah, maybe, Lisa, what we can do is actually just add a map with sort of like a heat map with all the local townships that have already done something and what the dates are, just to make it a little more visually appearing than just listing the names. I'd be happy to try to do something like
I was
that.
just going to ask you if you think you
Yeah.
can do that. That would be
Yeah.
wonderful if you want to take a stab at it.
Yeah, and then on the previous one on implementation, I would think the Board of Commissioners would want to know that we've already gathered public comment or what we've done thus far. So we should, obviously they'll ask, so let's just give them a bullet on what's been done thus far.
I think that's a great idea.
I have a question for Moira, maybe. Would it be helpful for us to go, I don't know how much time we have for this presentation, but to go through any of the major concerns that the public has had and essentially address them in this presentation?
I was actually just whispering here to Melissa about a couple of things that I do think that would be important, is the process that you have all engaged in.
Yes.
Open meetings to the public, outreach to the businesses. Very important to show all that great foundational work that you've already done.
Yeah.
And then in that, you might say, mostly positive, these are some issues, we hope that we've addressed them, this. I think that you need to have a little bit of like what's in the bill, and what the process was to get there, just for a better understanding of what the commissioners, the commissioners will have the ordinance ahead of time, not always guaranteed that they read it from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So you really have this opportunity to tell us what's in it and why those decisions were made where they were, and that might have been because of comments that you received from the community.
Thank you. So I think we should add a little bit more on like what the actual ordinance is. So we're proposing 10 cents for the paper bag, what the alternative is, using a reusable bag and encouraging businesses to invest in some of those for their customers. People do like branded stuff. And then I would suggest maybe a outline of that document that we put together with the FAQs essentially, we had, somebody wrote in that they, use these bags for pet waste. Well, we, have a list of alternatives for them. So I think that we could write some of that in the presentation too. Because I know that the board members, my point with this all along was likely have the same concerns that the public has had, or they've been hearing from their friends, neighbors, colleagues, some of these concerns, and they should be ready to address them as well.
I think that makes sense. So it sounds like we can put in the 10-cent minimum for the paper bags right into the ordinance slide. It sounds like it might make sense to have a new slide on the process that could include, the outreach that we've done, that we've held 3 official public hearings and we've accepted public comments, and a kind of roundup of what some of the main feedback we've received are and how we've addressed those concerns. I think that makes sense. Did you want to take the first stab, Danelle, at that new slide?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, and then we can circulate it. That would be great. Anything else? I think those are all really good points. I think Margie was trying to keep this as short as possible, but I think these are all important points. So I think that all sounds good. And I think we're only talking about adding a couple things to some of the slides and then one additional slide, so it'll still be pretty short. Okay, so any other comments from?
Melissa, what's the date for our submission on this again? The Tuesday before July 18th.
The 12th, I believe that is, July 12th. Is that right? I think that's right.
Okay, so I think we should aim for doing these changes next week.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because I know I think probably many of us will be out of pocket July 4th week. Okay. Any other comments on the presentation? I don't think we need to have a vote on this. It sounds like we're going to keep working on it, and then we'll submit it to Melissa, hopefully by the end of next week or at some point before the 12th of July. Okay, so the next, thank you, Ian. The next item on the agenda is discussion and vote to send resolution PACleanEnergy.com resolution to the Board of Commissioners. And I think we all.
Before we get there, I
Oh,
think
sure.
there might be a question about the ordinance do you have a question about the ordinance? If you can step up to the microphone, please.
Thank you. My name is Mike Fisher. I'm the manager at the Lancaster County Farmers Market. I work for S. Clyde Weaver, one of the vendors in the market, and there's 24 other vendors that a little concerned about the ordinance. We want to abide by it, and we will abide by it. I'm here to get hopefully some clarification. I don't need answers tonight. If you could listen to the questions and maybe get back to me at a later time, that'd be fine. We have a question about, as I read the ordinance, it seemed to me that possibly there's more for shoppers in the township to be concerned about, and it's their responsibility to come up with bags. The vendors at the market, at least, and probably other vendors, businesses in the township, they have to provide something. I'm thinking of a sub shop or something. Is the township looking to each business to come up with an alternative type of bag for that type of an application? Or are we going to be telling the residents in the township, if you are going shopping anywhere in this township, you better bring a bag with you. If you want to carry your products out in a bag, you better bring it. And so it seemed to me like there's two parts to the process for the township to gain its purposes or achieve its purposes. One is to prohibit the use of single-use bags by businesses in the township. That's prohibit, with the exception, my bags are laying on the floor. I understand that there's, if you have poultry or deli meats or produce, those little bags that go right against the food, they're still prohibited or permitted. The T-shirt bag is the term that we would use. They're the main thing that you're trying to get rid of, or other types of bags that are used to carry out. I know my company, S. Clyde Weaver, they have a regular T-shirt type bag that you use, but then they have a very heavy, the word reusable is kind of vague. In my home, we shop at different grocery stores. We bring those bags home, take our food out, put them away, and we have a long sleeve, and we stuff those bags in there, and we do reuse them, but they don't fit the description that you have. So my question would be, for the market, 24 vendors, we're requiring shoppers to come in with their own bag. What if they come in with a T-shirt bag, a single-use bag? What if they're reusing a single-use? Are we allowed to put food in that? Or are we opening up a can of worms by, and then who's to determine whether that bag actually came from the customer or whether a vendor just kind of slipped them a T-shirt bag? And I am so sorry. I deal with logistics and details, and these are noble goals and they're worthy goals, and it's going to happen and it's all good. I just have to, in my role, try and figure out how we're going to make this work. And so those are a couple questions that I had. The one was, is there an effective date? You mentioned 3 months and 6 months as two timeline periods after the effective date. So at this point, you're still in the process of forming and modifying, but there will be an announcement of an effective date, and then 3 months after that, then businesses such as ours would need to post to the customers, this bag ordinance is coming. It's in 6 months. It's definitely going to be here, and you will need to bring in your own bags. So, all right. And the market is considering, I think you mentioned it, customized bags or printed bags, where one side would have Lancaster County Farmers Market and on the other side would have a list of all the vendors. And these would be, we would get them in and charge about what they call, we wouldn't be making a lot of money off them, but it would be a service that we would provide. All the vendors would have them available and charge the same price at all stands. Those bags, I saw some from Wegmans, and there is synthetic material in those bags. So my question to you would be, must they be all natural fibers, or, so I'm just looking for some clarification on that down the line.
So I can answer some, I think most of these questions, I
Okay.
think, are answered by the ordinance, and let me know if I missed anything. I think the easiest ones to answer is there an effective date? The answer is not yet. So we are an advisory council. We will be presenting this to the Board of Commissioners. They will then consider it and eventually, hopefully, vote on it.
Gotcha.
Once they vote on it, there will be an effective date, so.
And that's the
that
Board of
we-
Commissioners.
Yes, exactly. So we are, presenting this, but we will not be able to, they will have to approve it in
Gotcha.
order for it to go into effect. And
Okay.
then there's a 30-day signage requirement, and then in 6 months is when it actually kicks in.
And I believe they could even postpone the effective date. It's not the day that they approve it either. They could pick a date, essentially.
Okay.
So you have plenty of time still,
Yep.
yes.
And that was very wise, very good, because one of the issues in today's world is supply chain issues, but, so they need to have some idea. They don't want to go buying a year's worth of stuff because it's so hard to get. And so that's great. You guys were very good with that.
Great.
It just brought to my mind
Yeah.
one other question. During the pandemic, Health Department said nobody's allowed to bring anything in. It has to be, so should another pandemic occur, is there any kind of leeway, or would there be, that would be just something to consider?
Absolutely. As far as I know, that would if there was a state or federal requirement, again, that you cannot bring reusable bags in, for example, that would supersede, I believe, the local ordinance. So
Okay. Good.
hopefully we won't be back there, but
Yes.
it is good to think about that. In response to some of your other questions, just because I think I can tick some of these off. Yeah, so the purpose of the ordinance is to put, it's really geared at the commercial establishments not providing the plastic bags. So, yes, there would be the expectation that the customers would be bringing their own reusable bag. The ordinance wouldn't put the customer in trouble if they brought what you call the T-shirt bag in. But the commercial establishment is not supposed to be distributing. Once this is in effect, if you have to distribute something, if you want to provide the bag, it would have to be something that fits within the ordinance. So a paper bag that you can charge a minimum of 10 cents for, or, a reusable bag. So this was another question was, what is a reusable bag? The way that we've defined it here, actually, I'm not sure, I didn't print out, I'm not sure if this is the most recent one. But I believe that our definition is broad enough to include a bag that contains synthetic fibers as long as it's reusable. I don't think I have, unfortunately, I can pull it up, actually.
I will make a comment on that because I actually spoke to Devry of Hebner's. We're regular customers there, and I asked him if he had heard about it. I was checking in with him. I was just going to bring this up in the meeting anyway. And he brought over, we always use a cooler bag there, but he brought over these thicker bags that he had with like a solid plastic handle.
Yeah.
And he's like, are these reusable? And I'm like, no. So it's very specific in the ordinance about like we talked about it being like the blown plastic bag,
Gotcha.
right? That's how they're manufactured. So anything that is, even if it's like that thicker one, I know
Yeah.
exactly which ones you're talking about at the farmer's market.
Right.
Those are still considered non-reusable. Yes,
And that's
unfortunately.
perfect clarification.
Yes.
Just why I'm here,
Yeah.
because everybody just needs to,
Yeah, I was anticipating
forward.
those concerns, especially at the farmer's market where you have so many vendors and everybody has a different style of bag. So yeah, that unfortunately won't pass the muster. But the other thing I will address while Lisa continues to look this up is the timeline. And you were talking about ordering supplies. So I talked to Devry about this as well because he was like, well, I have like 2 cases of these. And I was like, but it's okay. We still have 8, 10, who knows how many months. There's also a provision that allows small businesses, if they still have a supply of the bags, to use out those bags.
Okay.
So we hope that you wouldn't like buy them the day before the ordinance went into effect.
Yeah.
But you would have to write in to get an exception to use the bags out. But you wouldn't have to throw them away.
what I am hearing and going to try and convey is you don't have to buy any bags anymore.
No.
You don't,
Yep.
you don't even have to buy the cheap bags. You just, so you have that less of an expense where they're looking at it as, I got to buy these fancy bags, these more expensive bags. Well, they don't have to buy any bags.
No, I know that a lot of companies, and you see this around, and I even saw that Good Harvest has like their branded bag out already. Maybe they were planning on that beforehand. It's very popular, but we all know that we have 7 of those bags hanging out at our house that we never use. There's so many of them around that you get for free. So it really is on the consumer to bring their bag. And I hope that it doesn't become, I hope that the businesses don't think of it as a customer service issue, because you're all in it together, right? So it's not like they're getting a bag from the next stand either, right?
Right. Or, as I learned tonight, East Town and
Yep.
extra different, and, because that's a concern, you know. Well, I just won't shop there. I'll get down to Whole Foods, or I'll
Yeah.
go over to King of Prussia. And
Yep, it'll be the same everywhere soon.
And one of the ways you can help us when you start saying you're going to, this is what's happening, is to encourage the customers to bring their own bags.
Yes. Yep. I mean, you go to Aldi's, that's the one I'm most familiar with, but you just have to have the bags in the car, and, yeah.
Yep.
And just, I believe this is the current language. So reusable bag is defined as a bag with handles that is specifically designed and manufactured for multiple reuse. Reusable bags shall be made of either polyester, polypropylene, cotton, or other durable material. In contrast, single-use plastic carryout bag is defined as a bag made of plastic or other similar material that is provided by a commercial establishment to a customer at or around the point of sale that is not a reusable bag or recyclable paper bag. A single-use plastic bag is made through a blown film extrusion process. And then there's some exemptions, but.
That verbiage, where is that located? Is that in one of the township ordinance documents?
This is in our proposed ordinance in the definitions section.
Gotcha.
So.
I don't know if I saw that on your website. I guess maybe I just missed it.
Yeah, it should be there. There's a definition section. So,
Great.
yeah, that's, I believe, the current version of it.
Very
Does
helpful.
that sound right? Yeah, okay. So I think I addressed all of those
Yes.
concerns, but please let us know if you have
Yeah.
others, and because we haven't even presented this yet,
Yep.
I think there's still opportunity for us and certainly for the board to make
Yeah.
tweaks if the community has concerns, but we have consistently been kind of updating the language to address these concerns, and we are so glad you came tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was very good for me, and I just have to go and try and change perception, just change. Kind of like when DeBruno Brothers came across the parking lot, that was going to be a horrible thing. It's been a lovely thing, so anyway.
Good luck. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Absolutely, that's great. Plus, it's good advertising if you do go get those bags out, that people will be walking around with your farmer's market reusable bags. I think that'd be great for business, too. Thank you so much. Great, okay, let me get back to the agenda. Okay, so now I think we were going to talk about PA Clean Energy. So I think we have, are you going to give us a presentation? I think we also have like the presentation to put up. Sorry, I'm just pulling the agenda back up here. But we do have Dan Burnham here, who's going to present and talk about this PA Clean Energy effort. And I am just going to pull it up here.
I have a second copy.
I think I've got it. Okay, so this is titled A Resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Radnor Township. Oh, I think I've got it, thank you. To join the online platform pa.cleanenergy.com as a platform contributor and founding platform steering committee member. And this, as I understand it, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this platform is kind of in furtherance of the Board of Commissioners adopted resolution from 2019, which was titled A Vision for a 100% Clean Energy Renewable Future. And this is where multiple township representatives can connect and share resources in furtherance of that goal. But maybe I'll have you come up. Is now a good time, and you can explain it to us and present it, and then we can vote on whether we want to approve sending this over to the board.
Thank you for inviting me. As you're aware, there are multiple townships in this area who are either neck and neck or ahead of us in acting on the Ready for 100 goals. Thanks to the Board of Commissioners, we now have a accepted energy conservation and renewable energy plan that requires us to, as a community, go into a technology and business that is still new to most townships in this country. So it is behoven to us to not only listen to ourselves within our township and experts outside of the township, but also keep pace of what developments and thoughts are happening in neighboring townships. We all have the same goals of energy conservation, which will make it easier for us to then transition to renewable energy. And this requires a lot of steps, including municipal governments, existing and new energy regulatory and generation firms. And so whatever learnings we can gain from each other, as well as acting together and just with the reaching a critical mass of either a request or a need for resources and maybe legislation as well. This platform would provide this arena for sharing this information. It is under development. I talked extensively with the head of the Sierra Club in this area, Jim Wiley. And if Radnor was to have a representative on this platform, we would be the first to be on the platform. So we would have an opportunity not only to be the first to contribute to the platform in terms of what we've achieved already, including our development plan, but also to be having a steering committee leadership at the outset for how the platform is to be designed and used.
Thank you so much, Dan. I have a couple, and just to clarify, a couple of things. I see here, no funding commitment is required on the part of the board, so this would just be, so that is helpful. That would,
Yes.
that's good to know. And would it have to be a Radnor EAC representative that went to the platform? I think I read.
Well,
No.
it's
okay.
really up to the township to decide who the representative is.
Well, although the logic is, because there are, not all boroughs, municipalities, or townships, even in Delaware County, have an EAC, but it's a natural place to move from. It's really a chance for us to all work together and stop reinventing the wheel. So it's really a natural step
Yes.
in moving climate change conservation forward.
If we have time, if I had control of the computer or somebody else does, we could actually go to the website as it's been developed so far. Simply type in, as written, pacleanenergy.com. I can, okay. And look for a search engine. Oh, there we go, there we go. Okay. Oops. Different keyboard. Okay, right off it says, this site is under construction. Unfortunately, Steve was going to.
This is wrong.
There.
There's no dot.
So right off, it's inviting
That's just
various sectors
pacleanenergy.com.
to at least be aware, if not participate, in this platform, as shown here. County, township, borough leaders, business and facility managers, commuters, students, and residents. So all the people who have a vested interest in energy upgrading and are involved in the energy business would have, at least have access to this. And as Jim has envisioned, it may actually broaden to stakeholders, not just EAC type people, but the people who will actually be impacted and also carry out the electrification and transition to renewable energy.
Lisa, is our vote to propose that we participate in this?
Yeah, so our vote is on this resolution, which, and I'm reading it again a little more closely, is that we would be making a recommendation that the township join the platform and that we select a member of the Radnor Green Team, which I know you're a member of, right, Dan? So
Mhm,
presumably
yes.
that could be you, to serve as a contributor and steering committee member. You know, we would be tasked, you know, with recruiting a member of the Radnor Green Team with area experience to serve as the contributor and committee member that represents the township. So I think what I'm not sure about is if we are creating content on this platform, what I guess I'm not sure about, this might be a question for Melissa or Moira, is, you know, do we need like another layer of approval, or would this be, you know, would we be interested with making the decision that, you know, we can select someone and that they would have the ability to make these contributions? I'm just not, I'm not exact, I just don't know, because I know that there are some rules about what can or cannot be posted. And I understand it may not even be posted as, you know, coming from Radnor Township necessarily. It would just be part of the platform, so maybe that's not a concern. That's a question I have that I just don't know the answer
So we're
to.
talking about policy.
Yeah.
Township policy, regardless of what the platform is, just what type of information is shared.
Yeah.
And who can share it, right?
Right. Well, I think we'll all need to be first on this before we get active. I mean, hopefully, certainly sharing our energy conservation and renewable energy plan is okay. mean, Sarah helped me here, but our current activity is focusing on this building, for example, upgrading the energy usage. Upgrading the energy usage and conservation in this building, the municipal building. It's commonly done now in these neighboring communities. So that is something else that could be shared. And discussion of building codes, zoning, what can be done there.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that if you're, for example, uploading documents that the township has already published, that's probably no problem.
Right.
So if that's kind of mostly what it's going to be, and then you're just helping kind of decide where to put this on the PA Clean Energy website or something, I think that sounds
Yeah,
probably like it wouldn't be a problem, but, yeah, that's the only question I have. If you're going beyond that and talking about potential things that could be done, that the township is considering that, I don't know, but,
Right.
I don't know how that works.
A member of the EAC or Green Team would be working with the people responsible for the energy usage in this building and the town planning committee, and so we would already have to go through that committee to get clearance to post anything. I mean, my passion is to share something that has been reached by consensus. One thing that Jim suggested was to have a blog, and I immediately said I'm not interested in a blog. I don't want to hear opinions. I want to hear positions, actual facts, what we are going to do, or more better, what we have done, and who has helped us. And so this is not to be a chat box. This is to be a source of useful information for all of us. Now, if we want to mobilize our neighboring members of this website to do something, there could be, maybe outside of it, a way to communicate, for example, legislation or with any regulatory body. But as I see it, this is to be pretty dry. And that gets to your question about whether something should be put on or not based on policy. Yes, it only should be approved by the township.
I don't see any issue with, as long as there's a process for approval, but I also am not sure. Like, there's still this separation between Green Team and the EAC, and I'm kind of like, what part do we play here? Why are we electing somebody from the EAC to, does anybody else feel that way?
Yeah, if you could help clarify the ask for me, I'm still a little confused. So is the ask for someone from the EAC to join the PA Clean Energy? Or is the ask for, I mean, the way that I read it, it seems like the ask is for the EAC to appoint someone from the Green Team that we don't really control. I mean, they don't report to us.
Right.
To be part of the PA Clean Energy. So I'm a little confused as to what the ask is. If you could just sort of
Well,
clarify
I
that for me?
envision if I were to be the person on this platform, I would attend regular EAC meetings. I would be not operating at all independent of this body because the Green Team is part of this body. So we would always be communicating with you as to what we're up to. I would not post anything without clearance from you. I'm a strong believer in checkboxes because we're all human and we can make mistakes.
think that makes sense. And, the specific ask would be, this would be a resolution that we're sending to the Board of Commissioners to give us the authority to select someone from the green team to kind of represent the township in this way. So, it may be worth tweaking this a bit to just include in writing, that there would be communication between the person selected and the EAC, or
Right.
to kind of spell out how the approval process would work. I think that might
Yes.
resolve some of these concerns. So maybe we can work with you
Right.
to make a couple of small, probably, edits to this before we vote on it.
What is the wording now for the relationship of Green Team to the EAC?
I'm not even sure of that myself. Melissa, or Moira, do you have an explanation for that? I think that's part of our problem, understanding here.
Yeah, so the green team is a subcommittee of the EAC. So, working hand in hand to make those decisions. But the green team needs to work with the EAC before presenting anything individually.
Okay,
So-
I would love if more green team members attended some of our meetings so we could hear more
Yes.
updates, because I don't feel very connected to it right now.
Yes.
And I'm going to suggest, it feels like, I understand somebody has to be the first. This is a project that is underway and being built out. I think there needs to be some more discussion before perhaps even this vote, and I'm not even certain that this is something that the board would take up. So it could be handled administratively. So I do think that it needs to be a conversation, of course, with Melissa. Bill White should be involved to sort of get a better understanding of what this group is, how the green team is, who you're working with, who's building this out, things like, just sort of sit down and kind of flesh it out a little bit on the administrative side.
Right. right.
And there may be some direction there about the best way to get to what, to what you want, which is to participate
Right.
in this
No,
collaborative.
I agree. As far as I understood from Jim, Jim is the sole developer of the website at this point. Now, that cannot possibly remain because he is very busy. I can envision him having someone else work
And is
with.
Jim a member of the Radnor Green Team?
No, he's what the,
Jim Wiley lives in Westchester. He's part of the Westchester group who actually developed the whole resolution for Ready for 100. He's really been the person who's stepped forward and sees this as a way for people working in the various townships to become a resource for each other. So Jim has volunteered, he's set it up so far, he's underwriting it financially, just as a way to push Southeast Pennsylvania into being a leader in all of this.
So I agree with what Moira has described as fleshing it out administratively more and then seeing if it's even necessary for us to pass a resolution to participate. I think it makes it feel like very serious, and it might not be as serious as we're feeling that way with all the whereases and the legal language and stuff. So I think if we set up something with Melissa and Bill White and some folks from both the EAC and the Green Team and figure out what kind of information would be shared, maybe if we came with some positives that would come out of it, the objectives of sharing, and kind of like write that out a little bit more so we understand what the scope of participation would be. I think would be very helpful for me in understanding what the ask is too.
okay. Yeah,
So-
thank you.
Yeah, so it seems like the next step probably would be to maybe set up by email that meeting, and Dan, obviously, we'd include you in that. We would love to have you come and explain it, and hopefully we can go from there. Is there anything else you want us to know at this time?
Not at this point. Sarah, anything?
No, I think those are excellent ideas. I don't think it necessarily has to be as formal as this.
But again, your point about approval of what is posted should be built into the administration of the website, both from this end and the receiver end.
Yeah, and I think that's where Bill and Melissa can really help us with what documents can be shared, when they can be shared, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what needs to be approved first and by whom, and that kind of thing. I think it's a great idea, though, and I'm excited to figure out, how to make it happen. I'm very thankful to you for wanting to kind of put Radnor on the map and be a steering committee member of this website. I think it would be great if townships were sharing more of all the good things that they're doing.
Yes.
So I really appreciate your work, and I guess we'll be in touch very
Then we
soon.
wouldn't
about-
have to pirate the plastic bag ordinance off of other website. I'm kidding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I guess actually, while we have you and Sarah here, we don't have on the agenda a green team update, but is there anything, while we have you both present, is there anything worth sharing with the committee, with the council now? Or if not, that's okay. I just figured I'd
Well,
ask.
this really is the next step as a way to coordinate. I mean, I'm immediately thinking of people who are thinking about conservation or thinking about heat pumps and working their hot water into it, and we have a vacuum of knowledge. So one of the ways this website would be invaluable would be for not only municipalities to look at how they might change their saldo or their codes, but individuals to know
Right.
where and how to go about information when they decide to make upgrades. And it's a way also for Melissa to let people know, God willing, we get the grants for the EVs and this helps other municipalities who are just, everybody is somewhere on this continuum, and we want to all work together. So this is really the next step.
Yeah, the time is ripe.
Yes.
For EVs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. And Sarah. Okay, so we only have a few other things. The next agenda item is update on yard signs. I was told by Margie that there is no update on the yard signs, so we can move on from that quickly unless anyone else has an update. She said she hasn't heard anything new. Otherwise, the next agenda item after that is other updates and reports. I don't know if anyone else has any updates or reports to share.
I had one thing. Previous to this board being formed, the EAC was working on Sustainable Pennsylvania, which, and Radnor is now in the silver category. You can get up to platinum. I'd like us to not forget about that. And of course, my iPhone dropped what I was looking at. But you can go to Pennsylvania, the Sustainable Pennsylvania Community Certification and Project of the Pennsylvania Municipal League and Sustainable Pittsburgh. And it's really, as the township adopts, we're going to get, for instance, we're going to get hybrids. We're going to apply for grants. When they begin to achieve those things, then they get reported in, and you achieve a higher level. Some of the townships, I think specifically Lower Merion, has decided to go with Sustainable Pennsylvania rather than Ready for 100. So I'd like us to not lose sight of it, and maybe we can review where we are so far and what are the next steps that can be taken. So it's just something that's, when Matt was chair, they talked about it. So I'd like us to not forget it.
I don't know, I'm not familiar with what the main differences are. And is that a choice that we would have to make? Like,
No, you can
okay.
do both.
Okay.
And so that's part of the conversation is, do we continue to inch forward? Or do we say, not bother, we'll do this?
It might be worth putting on next month or, future month, kind of an overview or discussion of both of those initiatives, and, we can debate about this a little bit and try to figure out, if there's other recommendations we want to make to the board. I'm not as familiar with Sustainable PA or what the differences are with that and Ready 100 that we, but I think it's probably worth future
Right.
discussion once we've had time to.
Would
look
you
into
like
it.
me to see what I can pull together? Okay.
Great. Any other updates or reports?
Not for me.
All right, how about any other old business? Any other new business? Okay. Other than that, are there any other public comments? I don't think so, because we've already heard from Dan. All right, and that was the last thing on the agenda. So anything else before we close for the evening?
No, thank you.
Great, thank you, everyone. And I guess the meeting is adjourned.